Cumberland traffic, airplane 4041 uniform, departing 1 left, right and
And when I reached about the age of 12 and a half, 13, I was solo expectation, so ready to go solo. Because of my age, I had to wait till I was 14 to go solo. I was just doing new stuff, so I was doing some aerobatics, learning how to do that, which I really enjoyed. Then on the 22nd of July, on my 14th birthday, I went solo and became the UK's youngest pilot.
Welcome to Soaring the Sky, a glider pilots podcast. My name is Chuck. I'm your host, coming to you from the Mid-Atlantic region here in the United States and flying with the Cumberland Soaring Group. This is episode 81. Thank you for joining us for another great episode, packed full of great soaring content. But before we get started, I do want to thank you for listening and continuing to support the podcast. If you haven't already, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you really like what we are doing, please leave us a review on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast app. Also, a big thank you to our most recent Patreon pilot, Christopher Stevenson. Thank you for contributing to the podcast recently. Greatly appreciated. If you'd like to support us financially, you can do that by going to patreon.com/soaringthesky. We have recently updated our Patreon page and added some benefits for those of you that want to be a member. If you don't want to use Patreon, you can still help the show by going to our website, soaringthesky.com, and hitting the support the show button. While you are there on the website, you can sign up for our newsletter that'll be coming in the new year. This episode is sponsored by the Southern California Soaring Academy, a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in the high desert of Los Angeles County. Soaring Academy is dedicated to growing the sport of soaring with young people through its 8th grade STEM outreach programs and giving back to PTSD-afflicted veterans during private monthly events. Flight lessons and mountain soaring are available year-round to the general public, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. To learn how you can get involved, check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Soaring Academy or online at SoCalSoaringAcademy.org. On this episode of the podcast, we first talk with Jack Jenner Hall. Jack is currently Britain's youngest pilot. Jack recently flew his first solo flight in a glider on his 14th birthday. He is currently working towards his bronze exam while also learning glider aerobatics. One of his goals is to get more younger people like himself into aviation and show them that there are many affordable ways to get into soaring. Join us as Jack shares his aviation journey. Later on the podcast, Dale Masters, author and glider pilot, will share a new story with us called Communication Takedown. Our next guest, James Aleggio, soaring from the Hawaiian Islands, joins us for our soaring safety segment as he talks about the importance of communication during a winch launch. We then close the show with Ulrich Beinert from Central Germany, reminding us how our feathered friends can help with our soaring adventures. All this on episode 81 of Soaring the Sky. Jack Jenner Hall, welcome to Soaring the Sky. Glad to have you today. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you.
Where are you flying out of?
So I'm flying out of old RAF base called Tibenham, Norfolk, over in the UK.
Can you describe that, what it's like to fly out of there?
Yeah, no, it's really nice actually. We've got a lot of big space. There's a lot of runway. Norfolk being the flattest county, or as you guys call it, state in the UK. There's not much scenery around, but it's really nice. There's plenty of fields. We've got plenty of options if we needed to land out. And it's just, a really nice place to fly.
So you are, at this point, the youngest pilot we've ever interviewed here on Soaring the Sky.
It's quite good, and I've become the UK's youngest pilot since going solo in July. It's a great achievement, and I'm really pleased about it.
So how did all this come about? How did your aviation adventure begin?
So it all started actually when I was about 2 years old, and there's a little coastal town called Clacton-on-Sea in Suffolk, so the county just below Norfolk where I am. And I was 2 years old and went there, and it was my first ever air show I went to go see. And when I got there, I remember hearing over the PA, it's still in my head, it's, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Royal Air Force aerobatics team, the Red Arrows," who obviously they've been over to the States and they're very well known. And I just saw them come over my head, and I think something just clicked in my head, which was like, you know what, that'd be really cool. And I want to have a life and passion in aviation and take it up as a career. And then when I was with the whole gliding thing, when I was about 11 years old, the tug and glider combination would come over my house, and I kept thinking, I'm going to go give that a go. I'm going to go give that a go. And then one day I gave it a go. It was a January day in 2018 when I went up to inquire at Tiverton and got all the information I needed. They were really helpful, really easy to talk to. Then on the 3rd of February 2018, I had my first flight in a ZD50 Puchaz. Got winched up to about 800 feet, straight into clouds, but it was the best 5 minutes I've ever had, and definitely a flight I will never forget. And then I was, because I was 11, I started at a very young age, usually younger than they take on. And from there, I was just learning and getting ready to go solo. And when I reached about the age of 12 and a half, 13, I was solo expectation, so ready to go solo. But because of my age, I had to wait till I was 14 to go solo. I was just relaying, doing new stuff. So I was doing some aerobatics, learning how to do that, which I really enjoyed. Then on the 22nd of July, on my 14th birthday, I went solo and became the UK's youngest pilot.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So how was it? You became the youngest pilot, so you actually had some interviews there, local television, right? What was that like?
Yeah, so it was quite a big surprise actually, because we had the press secretary at my club is called Andy Vidian. He's sadly moved to another gliding club now. He was teaching me aerobatics at one point, but he got in contact with ITV, which is a news company in the UK. And we had like the local newspapers, like the Norfolk Eastern Daily Press, the Dis Express, my local town newspaper, and on my second solo, they filmed it without me knowing. Then as soon as I got on the ground, I was suddenly straight into an interview. It was like, wow, there was nothing to really describe it. It was all a bit of a shock, and it was like overwhelming. It's like, okay, I'm on TV now, and I remember I was telling my friends about it, and the day after, they were all sending me videos. It's like, I recognize you off the TV. So yeah, it was quite fun.
Nice. So a fun question I like to ask, and I know you're very young at Soaring, but you have a lot of passion. And we were talking earlier about looking at different gliders. What would be your dream glider if money's no object and you could just pick any of them? What would it be?
Oh gosh, okay. There's quite a couple of options. I've always had me and I've got really good friends at my flying club called Tom. We've always had like the talk. It's like, oh, what's our dream glider? And we'd just like to get into like a syndicate, so like possible two-seater like an Arcus or a Duo Discus XLT. But probably the nice high-performance single-seater is like the new electric gliders which are coming in. So probably an LS8 Neo or a JS3 with a Fez system.
Nice. Yeah, the electric gliders are very nice. I've been looking at those, and the technology is moving quickly, and they're coming out with some really cool stuff.
They are. It's really good, and it's probably going to start to be the new future of self-launching gliders, which would be amazing, and also the self-sustaining gliders as well.
Are you involved in anything with your local club where you're promoting gliding or bringing people out to the field to check it out?
So we're with my TV interviews, it has done a little bit of publicity for the club. Like I remember a couple of days after I went solo, I went to the club, went to go fly, and I had the trial flights come through. And I remember there was a couple of people there. They were saying, "Oh yeah, we saw a young lad on the television. We never knew this club was here." Then I peeked around the corner. It was like, I think that young lad might have been me. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're the reason why we found out about the club." So I have done a little bit for the club, and I hope I've done a little bit for the whole soaring and gliding in itself, like bringing it up and showing how amazing it is.
So what are you flying right now?
So at my club, we have two two-seaters and two single-seaters. So what I mainly fly is a Schleicher ASK21 and Astir, so Grob 102 CS, which is quite nice to fly. It's definitely taught me that you really need to hold off on your landing, because otherwise you will bounce along.
Anything in that glider as far as avionics that you particularly like, or maybe something that you would like to see in it that you don't have now?
Yeah, so it's sort of very basic. So we've got our ASI, you've got your altimeter, you've got the vario, and we've also got an audio vario in there as well. And then we've also got a radio. But I think it'd be really nice to see some of the moving maps in there. So some of the I don't know if you have it over there, but we have LX Avionics over here, and they've got really nice built-in moving maps which you can do. And it's like a multifunctional, so they have do like the moving maps in there. They have radios built in and the flarm built in as well. Yeah, we have flarms in ours as well. And that'd just be nice to see in it and modernize it a bit.
Yeah, I agree. The moving maps are very helpful.
Yeah, especially we've got, because I'm going towards the bronze exam fairly soon, and it'd be nice because to do cross country in case I get lost, it would be quite handy.
Yeah, that was my next question. Actually, are you venturing out to do some cross country? So you're just starting that?
Yeah, so in the UK, I wasn't aware of this till I joined one of the British Gliding Association's webinars, but it was originally 16 to do your bronze, but now it's been lowered to 14.
Okay.
And so I'm going ahead with that. But annoyingly, the cross country is still at 16, so I've got to wait 2 years to do that. But having the bronze would be great. But in the meantime, I'm going towards aerobatics, so I want to go and do my aerobatics badge and go through my beginners, intermediates, advanced, and go and do competitions.
So have you had any winch launches that were a little sketchy that maybe made you nervous or you learned something from?
So we do so when doing the winch launch training, we do the launch failures, so cable breaks, power loss in the winch, and I think the week actually before I went solo, I had the really low level launch failure, so below 50 feet. And that was very sketchy, I think, because it all happened very quick. It was quite simple to handle and do, but it was very quick, and there was a lot to take in very quickly. But you needed to take a calm head with you, and just know what you're meant to do, and get the glider down safely.
So can you walk me through that? What happened?
So I wasn't flying because the low launch failure is below 50 feet. The instructor just does a demo, but doing it was optional. But because it was the week before my solo, so they wanted just to make sure I could do everything in the air. So I didn't do it, but he demoed it. So it's 0 to 45 knots in about 2 seconds, and then we got to the transitional period from pulling up into the full climb about 45 degrees. But as we started to pull up, he pulled the release in the back. So we lowered the nose very slightly, obviously, because we weren't far off the ground. So we didn't want to go to the recovery attitude. Otherwise, we'd crash into the ground. Then he was maintaining speed and just letting the glider come down itself. We're quite lucky at Tivenham because we've got a lot of runway. It's very big, as it used to be an old World War II RAF base, so you just have B-17s flying out of there all the time. He was just being very gentle on controls, not overcorrecting at all, and then just letting the glider come down itself. Then we pulled the air brakes. You don't tend to pull the air brakes that low to the ground, obviously, because you don't have much height. So if you did, you'd come down with quite a big thump. So we, as soon as we touched down, you just pull the brakes, and we came to a stop. But we came to stop, and there's a cornfield the other side of the runway, and our nose was just about to be in that.
What is the coolest or maybe strangest thing you've seen either in the air or on the ground?
So on my second solo, I actually had I was at 3,500 feet, and we have RAF Lakenheath and RAF Middenhall very close to us. They're both US Air Force bases based in the UK. It was a very busy day for them, actually. There was a lot of activity. They were doing a lot of training off to the north coast of Norfolk, and they were doing air-to-air refueling, and off my left wing, I heard some noise, and off my left wing, I heard a KC-135 come shooting past, not very far distance. It could have been a bit dangerous, but I think that was one of the coolest moments I've ever had in the glider, and definitely one not to forget. Then we've also had some quite sketchy moments I've seen on the ground. We had, actually not too long ago, I was on the ground in the launch cabin talking down to the winch about launching gliders. And there was a glider just at the top of the winch launch about to release. And there was a flight of 4 F-15 Strike Eagles, which came over very low. And the pilot in the glider radioed down to say, they were probably about 50 feet above us, enough to see the writing on the weapons.
Oh, wow.
Up there. So that's probably one of the sketchiest moments I've ever seen flying.
Do you have a mentor that really has helped you out a lot? I mean, one of the questions I usually ask a little later in the show is, would you like to give a shout out to anyone? But yeah, is there a mentor that's really helped you out in your flying?
Well, being at a flying club, there's a lot of people around, a lot of instructors, and a lot of people there to help. And there's been actually all the instructors helped me. Like I had a person who sent me solo is called Phil Sillett. He's a really good instructor. He sent me solo. I've had some very good flights with him, and had very good flying experiences with him. But then I've had like a really good friend. I've mentioned him a couple of minutes ago. A really good friend of my flying club called Tom. He's been there before me, and he's been solo for about 2 to 3 years now, I think. And he's when I first joined, he was there. He was showing me the ropes, and then on all the ground handling. And then when we started, when I got learned a little bit, we started to be really good friends actually, and we've just gone from there. And then we've had our chief flying instructor is called Mark. He's been really helpful. He's been a really good instructor. Towards everything. He's helped me out, and yeah, there's all the instructors there have been really good, and made me a good pilot and made me a safe pilot, and they've given me really good flight training and told me all their experiences and what's happened and now what not to do, learning from their mistakes. So I think that's really good.
So you were 11 years old when you started flying gliders, correct?
Yeah.
How did you talk your mom into letting you jump in a glider at 11 years old and go flying?
I'm not going to lie, she's still very nervous about me doing it, but she's known it's been a lifelong passion of mine to go flying and fly a aircraft on my own, which I'm doing now. And she was very happy about me doing it, and she's very supportive. She's been very supportive actually, although she's very scared, bless her. The first time dropping me off there, she was very nervous and thought, oh God, just call me when you land, but after going so many times, the nervousness went for her. But then once seeing my solo, she filmed it and I was just hearing her, and she was crying her eyes out because she was really worried about me, which obviously is what happened. She's a nervous mother and she wants her son to be okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now she's getting a lot better with me going solo. She just, I need to make sure she needs to know I'm okay. So to let her know that I'm okay, I call her every time I land and say how the flight was and everything. And yeah, she's getting a lot better with it.
And we were talking earlier before we started recording the podcast, and something very interesting that you were talking about younger people and money. It costs money to go fly. We all know that. And one of the reasons I got into soaring was actually I was looking for a cheaper way to fly and follow my dream of flying. But you had some ideas and some things you were telling me about cheaper ways to fly there where you are. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, of course. So, I know a lot of younger people who really want to get into aviation, but just can't because they think, well, I'm not going to be frank, aviation is expensive, and there are many aspects of it which are really expensive. But soaring and gliding, I feel like they're very affordable, and there's many affordable ways to get into that. Like, at my flying club, I'm on a scheme where I pay £55 a month, and in that £55, it includes 10 flights. So I can go up there about 5 times, and each time I could fly about 2 times. And on each flight it gets you up to half an hour of free flying time, so it is really affordable, and it's a really flexible plan. So I'm going to be honest, I really don't come from a financially gifted background. Like, it's just me and my mum at home, and it's always just been me and my mum. My dad wasn't very good at a younger age, so he's gone off. My mum's been really good. She's had 11 jobs at one point just to keep the roof on our heads. Then after it got more stable, got into flying, and the affordable flying scheme came up, and we thought that was a really good idea to go into. And then the flying club, they're really flexible with your payments. If you're late on the payments, it doesn't matter. But obviously, if you go over the what's included, you have to pay for that. So if you want to have an extra flight, it's about £8 for a winch launch, and it's probably about 35p a minute. So it's still not too bad actually from where I fly. But I know many flying clubs in the UK, they have affordable flying plans, which are similar to mine, like many gliding clubs, and especially in the British Gliding Association, we have the juniors page and the affordable flying ways. I'm not sure all the details of every club of their affordable flying, but I know at most clubs they do affordable flying schemes for people who aren't financially gifted, and it's really good as well. And it can also teach younger people to, if they want to pay for their flights, it can teach them the worth of money and everything. I want to let people know as well that anyone from any background can get into aviation, no matter who they come from. There's always a place for them, and especially there's always ways to get into one of the aspects of it.
Absolutely. Some great advice. Always a way to fly. You just have to find it.
Exactly. And seeing younger people get more into aviation, especially younger girls actually, is amazing. Like I follow the Soaring Academy in America on Instagram. I was seeing there was I can't remember what her name was, but there was a younger girl on there who was taking up flying, and I thought that's absolutely amazing seeing younger, because I'm not going to lie, again, aviation is a male-dominated area, and I feel like there needs to be a lot more females getting into aviation. And at my flying club, we've had some new members who are girls, and they've been really welcome. And I think it's actually great because it's brought more diversity to the club, and it's amazing to see girls getting into aviation.
So you follow the Soaring Academy out of Los Angeles there?
Yeah, I do. And I was just thinking, it looks great where they've come out of flight there. Like, I've always wanted to go to America and go towards Los Angeles. And if I ever went to Los Angeles, I'll definitely go out there and have a couple flights.
Well, we'll have to talk after the show, because they're good friends of mine, and I'm sure they would love to have you there in California to do some soaring.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, that'd be great.
So I like to ask, are there any birds that you've soared with, any particular memory that strikes you?
Yeah, so actually it was pre-solo. It was April, so only the start of the soaring season, and I remember I was really scratching to find a thermal. But then we had some buzzards. I'm not sure if have buzzards over in the US, but in the UK we have a lot of them.
Yes, we do.
And I feel like they like to play games with us because they can always find the best part of the thermal, and then there's us really scratching hard. But I remember there was probably about 6 of them in the same thermal. I had about 2 in front of me, a couple off to my right wing, and then I remember looking as far back as I could. I remember seeing a couple behind me and just going up and up and up, and that was amazing. And I've also had some red kites fly with me. I was in a streak of lift, and they're also following the streak, so that was quite fun. There's been seagull. There's really not, in Norfolk, there's not really many amazing birds, but then we've had the common seagulls. They'll come and fly with you and kind of laugh at you because they're also very good at thermaling. So if you're finding it really hard, they'll just shoot up and just laugh in your face, basically.
So, Jack, what is your future plans in aviation?
So, as going back to the whole Red Arrows thing, when I was little, I've always wanted to have a job as a pilot. And originally it was for many years to go into the Royal Air Force and go be a fighter pilot. But then I thought it was going to be a cool job and everything. But then I came to terms with it. It's actually, you're probably going to be deployed into a war zone, and that's not really me. That's not something I'd be prepared to do. So I really want to go into commercial flying, going into the airlines, taking people on holidays, and I really want to pursue that. But obviously it costs a lot to get into that, so I'm saving up a little bit to put towards it. But that's definitely the ultimate goal.
Well, now speaking of saving up and money, you did start a blog, right? And that to help.
Yeah, I did. So I've started a little bit of a blog. It's almost like a little, almost e-diary of all my flights. Obviously, I haven't put much on there yet because the UK, we're currently in the second lockdown, so flying stopped. But it ends, fingers crossed, in about 12, 11 days, and we'll be able to get back flying. But it's almost just like a little it's a little thing to show how my flights have been, what I've done, and it's just to like help people as well find out what gliding's like. I've also created like a little online shop on there. It's like a little bit of clothing. It's called the shop's called The Sky's the Limit, and it's ways of if people buy the products. It's on a website called Teespring. We don't really get I don't get much profit off it, obviously, because they've got to do the shipping and obviously making the clothing. I've also got some canvases on there, but that's going all towards the flying and raising money for it.
Well, you're already an entrepreneur, so that's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to get a little bit of money from it and put towards flying, especially like as I want to go towards aerobatics. That's quite the expensive part of gliding because I have to get aerotows up, which are more expensive than winch launches. So that'll definitely all goes towards that.
Well, we'll put the blog in the show notes, but what is the blog?
It's called The Sky's the Limit, and its webpage is www.jackjennerhall.com, and that's linked towards it.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And they can also go to soaringthesky.com, and we have a pilot page, and I'll be adding you to the pilot page as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And that'll be great because I really want to get a lot more people on there and looking at it. And I've also got a little chat room on there where it messages me directly, and if people want to ask me questions about how I got into flying or ways I can help them to get to flying. So the affordable, as we've mentioned before, the affordable flying, younger people into aviation, flying clubs, what they're like. I'd be really happy to help them get into aviation.
Thank you. That is a great idea.
Yeah, and I want to help people get into aviation because I know it's been probably the best choice of my life so far, and to help people make that choice for themselves it'll be amazing too.
Jack, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast here today. It's been great to hear your story, and like I said, you're the youngest pilot we've interviewed, and you have a lot of great plans for the future and some great ideas. Keep it up. I love the fact that you're helping other people find out about soaring. So keep on going.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
Hi, it's Natalie Flygirl Kelly.
And Fly Alyssa.
We are female pilots, aviation lovers, and hosts of the podcast, Cockpits and Cocktails.
We use this podcast as a way of sharing our journeys in aviation and allowing other females in aviation to share their amazing, inspiring stories as well.
Please give us a listen and join us for this fun, informative podcast with adventure and humor weaved in.
Blue skies.
Cheers.
And now it's Soaring Tales with Dale. Glider pilot and author Dale Masters brings us another soaring tale. This one's called Communication Takedown.
A couple of different episodes that really did happen. The first, I was with a typical weekend line kid who doesn't get to fly as much as they'd like, but he's so exposed to it that he's always done very well. I've never seen him do anything really wrong or fail to do what we ask. And he was doing his pre-takeoff protocol, did everything exactly right, all the way down to what I always taught the last thing before takeoff is stiff arm the brake handle one more time to be sure that's locked. He did that, and then he didn't wag the pedals. And I thought, well, maybe he's just taking a moment to really meditate, and that's fine. But it went on, and it started to get boring, and the wing runner was standing there watching. The engine is running. So rather than just say, go ahead and rag your pedals, I just assumed he forgot that, and I wagged them for him. And we began to move, and everything was going fine. And we lifted off, and then one wing started to go down, and I expected him to correct, and he didn't. And now we're starting to move off the runway, and I'm starting to cringe, and I decided I have to take over here. And just then he said, you're flying, right? Because when I wagged the pedals, he just immediately assumed I had control. And so the first half minute of the flight, up to 50 feet or so, nobody was in control of the glider. Just imagine. So flip the coin. We had a very busy afternoon one time, and we were behind schedule, of course. And then a group of people showed up way too late that all wanted rides. That just makes everybody hurry even more. And as it turned out, my last passenger of the day was a Russian tourist who spoke a little English, but only if you speak very slowly. And I was in a big hurry, and I just quickly got him in the seat and said, don't touch this, don't touch that, follow me on the controls, hopped in the back, and we started to go, and the stick felt a little stiff, and the more I tried to move it, the stiffer it got, and I realized, no, he thinks he's flying this. We're in the midst of takeoff, he doesn't speak English, and he thinks he's flying the airplane. So, the more I moved it, the more he fought against it. And by then I had aborted at about 20 feet up. And as we went way off the runway to a place where we could land with the wings level, he was still trying to get back on the runway by moving the stick way to one side, which would have caused us a cartwheel. And there was no communicating until we got it stopped. But just imagine now, if two ordinary buddy pilots were flying together and each one thought the other was flying, it could get scary pretty quick. And then if they both realize neither's flying, it could just stay that way. That sort of thing has happened to me more than these two times, but those are the two really memorable ones where we were probably a second or two from becoming very dangerous, all because no one really established who's actually in control. Which reminds me of one other little detail. I like to always, if I'm flying with another pilot, I like to make sure we agree who's PIC, but also who's actually in control before starting. I think almost all experienced pilots could tell a story of both pilots think the other guy's in control.
Thank you, Dale, for bringing us another story with Soaring Tales with Dale. And staying right along the lines of communication, James Aleggio chats with us for our Soaring Safety segment.
So winch launches, the good thing about how we operate the winch here is that we're in communication with them over the phone. And if the phone fails, we have the radio as well, so we have a backup. So we're constantly in communication with the winch operator. It makes it a pretty fail-safe operation. So winch launches typically aren't very scary. They're very exciting if you haven't experienced one before because the acceleration is quite phenomenal. And of course, you go from being on the ground in Hawaii to almost instantly being over the ocean and the mountains and watching the whales and you're with the birds. It's a wonderful experience.
If you want to hear the rest of James's story, you can check out episode 64. That one is called Soaring in Paradise. Ulrich Beinert joins us now from Central Germany for our Tips and Techniques segment, reminding us how our feathered friends can help us in our soaring adventures.
It's the small things, like you're looking for a thermal and you see the birds soaring, you head over there, you find the thermal, that's the one thing. But having found a thermal yourself, looking out the window and seeing a bird coming straight at you and joining you in that thermal because he sees you and he realizes that there's another bird there that's found a thermal, but it's not a real bird, it's you in your glider. So that absolutely blew my mind. That really got me that feeling of, yes, now I really am an animal that can fly. The place I live in Central Germany, we have cranes that pass through here on their seasonal migration. And there's a funny story that someone called us up at the airport because the cranes were circling overhead the airport. And they said we have to stop flying because we were confusing the cranes on their migration. And we tried to explain to this person that no, they're there for the same reason that we are. They're using the thermals, they're using the ridge lift to gain altitude to save energy.
To hear our entire chat with Ulrich, you can check out episode 57, titled Soaring is Real Flying. Thank you for listening to another episode. It's hard to believe we will now be working on episode 82. And if you want to get a sneak peek, we are starting to give our Patreon members news on upcoming episodes and other benefits as a thank you for supporting the show financially. You can start supporting the show for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/soaringthesky or by going to our website, soaringthesky.com, and hitting the support the show. If you're new to soaring and you want to find your local glider port because you want to take that first flight in a glider, you can go to ssa.org where you can find your local club. We hope you join us next time here on the podcast. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and happy soaring.
If you would like to say hi, just drop Chuck a line at chuck@soaringthesky.com. Or you can send us a note on the website, soaringthesky.com. Also, if you're a pilot, we want to hear your story. Just send us an email and Chuck will get in touch with you. We hope you join us next week for another great guest and adventure on Soaring the Sky. Music for the podcast was written and produced by Kim Spangler. Voiceover work was provided by Michelle Perez. Graphic design for the podcast was created by Zachary Fulton.